besties, welcome back to the Nurse Aspect, where we assess and evaluate. Today we have on the show Nurse Valerie, Nurse Practitioner Valerie. I'm your host, Nurse Becca, by the way. Probably should have said that before, but it is what it is. Anyways, welcome to the show, Valerie. How are you feeling?
Feeling good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
It's been a long time coming, girl.
It's been a long time.
I am so happy that you're on the show. You have no idea how happy I am for you to be here. I'm going to get right on into it.
Let's get into it.
Why'd you get into nursing?
Ooh, child. All right. Why did I get into nursing? So, can I be completely honest?
Yeah. Ain't no judgment. We listen and we don't judge.
So, I actually didn't even want to become a nurse, to be honest. But again, because of my background, growing up Haitian, we always hear the doctor, lawyer, nurse situation.
That's it.
And to be completely honest, I never had the intentions of going into mental health. So, like, everyone who sees me now is like, oh my God, mental health is your passion. Oh my God, you were born to do this. And to be completely honest, like when I got my first job out of school being in psychiatry, I was pissed off. Like I was like, there was no openings. I couldn't get a job. And they offered me a position on a mental health unit. And I was just like, ugh. But in retrospect, the funny thing is like when God has a purpose for your life, you can try every which way to try and like avoid it, but you're going to end up there one way or another. Girl. Let me tell you, because when I went to school, literally, I started off pre-med, went to nursing, said I was going to do psychology. Then I was like, I'm going to do business. Then I switched to healthcare informatics. I graduated with healthcare informatics and then ended up circling back and ended up going to nursing school. So, like, I tried.
You went around the block.
Then when I graduated nursing school, I was like, great, my parents are satisfied. I went and got my real estate license and did real estate for a little bit. My lifelong dream is to be an actress, which I'm still going to find a way to merge the two.
And that's okay.
But yeah, so like I kind of got into nursing because my parents kind of pushed me that way. And same thing with like the mental health. My parents weren't per se in favor of that. But like I said earlier, there was a reason why I ended up in mental health and I'm in it now. But I never thought that like I would be like this deep in it or that like wellness and mental health was going to be my thing. That is not something that I thought I would be doing. But again, somehow, some way, when you have a calling for your life, that's just where I ended up and that's where I am now.
Wow. I mean, talk about get right on into it. Like,
yeah.
That's amazing though. I've said it before so many times on the show, like psych and P's are the bottom of the barrel for me. Mm-hmm. I always think that people that work in those fields, just because I just don't ever see myself doing it, that God bless you. Okay. Because when I tell you just even dealing with like, you know, the white coat syndrome, which I know can happen like on a regular med surg floor too, mm-hmm. but just even more so in psych to not have a white coat on, just balancing the medications with, you know, just different diagnoses. It's not just like, oh, let me give you a little Eliquis here for your AFib or something like. It's like you have so many things to balance. Like almost like I feel like you can't even. There's certain meds that you can't even give, like, you know, that would be, I feel like, beneficial, but it's too much to balance. So I'm just like, the day I graduated, I put my backpack away. Let me stop. I kept it out because I had to take my boards, whatever. But after that, mm-hmm. all the books were done, and I just feel like that can't happen in psych. And I'm just like, it's not for me. It's not for me.
I feel like there's a space for everybody, you know, because there's other professions that I might look at and be like, I would never do that. Mm-hmm. Or like, God bless you. Like, I don't work with kids. That's mm-hmm. something for me. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like kids should be sick. And I also don't do addiction. So mm-hmm. again, there's a space out there for everyone.
Don't?
I don't. Not me personally. It's something I just don't care to do.
Okay.
But I just feel like everybody has that space where they fit into and everyone has that special thing that they're good at. So I can understand how you feel that way, for sure. But again, everybody has that special purpose and their calling for their lives. And, you know, sometimes you're just good at something, even if you don't want to be good at it. As much as I didn't want to go into psychiatry or mental health, like I was really good at it. And like clearly people felt like I was good at it and my patients loved me. So it's kind of like, you fit in where you get in. Sometimes mm-hmm. what you want to do is not what you're supposed to be doing and you end up there. So
what do you do in psych?
All right. So right now I work as a psychiatric nurse practitioner. So as a nurse practitioner, I'm able to diagnose, prescribe medications. I can also do therapy as well. So right now our practice that we have is mind psychiatry, moving in new directions. And essentially we have a virtual practice also in person as well, but I'm able to pretty much from home, which I love working remote. That's like been one of the things on my vision board for the longest was to have a job where I could travel and also still work. Mm-hmm. But I'll see patients, I'll do the evaluations, we sit, we talk, I get their whole history, find out about where they're from, what they got going on, and then we come up with a treatment plan together. From that point, we decide if medication management is appropriate. It's not always my first go-to. I'm very holistic in my approach, so I want to make sure that we're tackling all the other things first. Your lifestyle, what are you eating, what's your sleep routine, sleep hygiene look like, the people you surround yourself with, the things that you're consuming on a daily basis, including social media. We're going to look at everything first, and then if those things, you're doing all the changes and it's still not working, then we do explore medication management and or possibly therapy.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Do you ever see yourself doing anything different?
1,000%. 1,000%. So of course, a lot of people know me for being in the mental health space. Obviously, I'm also a content creator. I am an educator. I am a filmmaker as well. Mm-hmm. And like I said earlier, I would love to be an actress, right? So, and I'm also very, very creative. And for a long time, I struggled with nursing because I didn't feel like I had a creative outlet in nursing. Like, I just felt like my job was super serious, and I'm like a very unserious person. And I just really like to joke and laugh and play. And humor is one of the things that I use with my patients, and I use it with my friends in my daily life. So I've recently kind of found a way to integrate my creative side and nursing, and I moved into the space of making content that's geared towards mental health. So that's been really dope. And with that, I've also moved into the space of curating wellness events and being able to bring my creative side into that. So honestly, my goal is not to stay in, working, I won't say bedside, but like actual direct patient care. Yeah, I'm going to still see patients as I move throughout my career, but eventually being able to get my hands into different things, whether it's curating events or curating content for hospitals, for the state, and different things like that, documentaries, things of that nature, and being able to intertwine my love for mental health along with my creative side too.
That's pretty dope. Now, I will say, because you haven't mentioned it yet, so I feel like I'm going to mention it for you. Don't be scared. So a few weeks ago, like I was on a podcast myself, and mm-hmm. I had called you to find out information about maternal health, mm-hmm. And I had no idea that is a space that you are in. So can you tell us a little about that?
Sure. So again, funny thing is, my entire family is in the healthcare field. So my mom was a labor and delivery NP. My sister's an OBGYN, and my oldest sister is also a labor and delivery nurse. So, yeah, so they're all in that space. So I thought that's what I was going to be doing too initially. And then I went to psychiatry, and they were like, "What are you doing? Like, mm-hmm. what is that? Like, mm-hmm. is that even real? Like, is that a real job?" And I'm like, "Yes." But funny thing is, so I ended up getting a specialty or a certification from Postpartum Support International to become a reproductive mental health provider. So essentially, I deal with women from the onset of their menses throughout the pregnancy and postpartum period, all the way up until perimenopause and the menopausal period. And I just think it's funny because as much as I try to run from that whole LND space, the women's mm-hmm. health space, I somehow found my way back into integrating both mental health and women's health together. So again, you try to run from stuff, but again, when it's your time, it's your time. Jonah
and that whale, that's what it's giving. Not a problem. You're going to end up there. Not a problem.
So yeah, that's kind of how I ended up in that space. And I think it's really important just because, again, men and women are different, and women definitely go through their own set of issues physically, mentally, all the things. We wear a lot of hats. And I think it's important to have someone that can really kind of come at the intersect of mental health and what a woman's going through physically in her life, right? Just based on the normal hormonal changes that we go through, the expected life changes that a woman goes through, and understand how hormones plays a role in how she's feeling and how she shows up for herself, how she shows up for her family. So that's kind of the space where I fit in. Obviously, that's the whole lifespan of a woman, but that pregnancy, that postpartum period is kind of really my area that I like to be in.
And I will say it's so important, as a labor and delivery nurse myself, I do talk to my patients about just postpartum depression and how it can unravel even if you don't have anything at all. But mm-hmm. when I was talking to you, how it can be exacerbated even just by the slightest thing. If you have any undealt anxiety, any undealt maybe trauma, and that mm-hmm. maybe you kind of just packed it away, how it can come back up. And not only on that side, but when I was speaking to you, I was also surprised how certain providers won't even treat the mental health side of that mm-hmm. if you have that. And I just thought that was so interesting. I also learned a lot from you in terms of they always, yes, there's a disparity with Black women and healthcare in general, but how it also affects just other demographics as well. There's a big issue in terms of like the Asian population, which I didn't even realize. I mean, I'm seeing women on a smaller scale, and I'm one person dealing with, maybe 1 to 2 patients per shift versus to the thousands of women where it can be affected. How, in terms of, you go home and depending on your culture, it might not be appropriate for you to even be able to say, I'm having an issue. So I thought that was important. And even just the stuff that you're working on in the future, which I'm like, I don't know if you want to talk about that or not, how you feeling about that. But just even the stuff that you're working on in the future in general, whether you want to say it now or not, I just think that it's dope, and I can't wait to see how you flourish, honestly.
I appreciate you for that.
You're welcome, girl.
Thank you.
You are enough.
Ooh.
In case y'all don't see it, for the people that's looking on, maybe listening to Spotify, Apple, whatever, her hoodie says you are enough, and she actually is. Okay?
I appreciate you.
You're welcome. Have you ever, I know you said that you started legit in psych. Like what was your role?
So I've only worked in psych. I've never worked med surg, nothing like that. When I first came out of school, my job, and oddly enough, like I said, I couldn't find a job when I finished school. Like I was applying. And that's how I always stress to like nurses while they're in school. Make sure you build relationships with like your professors, your clinical professors, right? So like after I graduated, I was just sending a regular, hey, Merry Christmas text. And just, I had a little bit of a second underlying agenda to that. But I was saying, Merry Christmas and stuff like that. And one of my professors was like, hey, did you get a job yet? And I was like, no, I've actually been having a really hard time getting a job. And she's like, I can get you an interview. Like, just send me your resume and I'll get you an interview. And I was like, all right. And they were like, well, it's for an inpatient geriatric psych unit. I was like, I don't care.
Geriatric psych.
Child, listen, I learned a lot. So it was a lot of dementia, a lot of Alzheimer's. And it was right in the heart of Brooklyn. So definitely in an underserved area. So it was a lot going on. The patients were quite complex. But I did that for about 5 years, working bedside. And I tell people a lot of times, I see a lot of nurses wanting to jump from being an RN to an NP or having no psych experience, and then jumping into doing the remote psych as an NP. And I'm like, you got to put a little time in. And I tell them, listen, I served my time getting beat up on the psych floor, okay?
Wait, have you ever physically got abused?
1,000%. And that's a whole other conversation just about nurses getting, attacked and abused in general, and not really getting people to really like stand up for them or advocate for them. That's a whole conversation for another day. But no, definitely like that was part of the job. You knew when you went to work that day, like there was a possibility that you might like get hurt. You might get choked out. You might get thrown on the floor. You might get assaulted. That was kind of like part of my day-to-day job. So again, humor is very helpful in those situations because you do deal with a lot of heavy stuff, especially working on that unit, and a lot of stuff like seeing like older people and Alzheimer's and dementia, and that's super sad too. So that was my first job out of school, and I did that for about 5 years. And then after that, I went on to do case management for a psych unit as well. So I did that for another, I think about like 4 years or so. And while I was doing that, I went back to school for my NP and went and got my psych NP.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. In terms of like just abuse, because I just know that this is such a hot topic, especially nowadays, where nurses are getting hurt at work. Did you ever feel support from the facility that you were working at, your managers, anything like that? Okay.
Honestly, I'll say no. But I will say I feel like there's been way more of a push for like debriefing nowadays. There's been way more of an emphasis on mental health these days and mindfulness and how can we improve the mental health of our workers. So I feel like now there's more of a push for that. But back then, that was what, like 10 years ago. Ooh, I've been a nurse for a little minute now. Got a little skin in the game. No, not really. And I feel like, honestly, you really just had like whatever coworker that you rocked with, like that might be who you vented to and or like joked about it or debriefed about it. But we didn't really have any formal process. And like I said, there were days where we went through stuff and I have lots of stories. And I mean, if I can get personal on you, I could share a personal story. That was kind of crazy. But I remember I had this one patient that he had dementia, and we had a really good rapport with each other. And he used to always think I was his wife. So that was kind of like my in with him, where he'd be like, oh, honey, whatever. And I'd be able to get him to take his meds, do whatever I needed to do, take a shower. All was good. Until there was this one day where he was trying to have sex with me, and I was a nurse. And again, because of the dementia and stuff like that, he was a bit on the aggressive side. So it had actually gotten to the point where he was about to sexually assault me.
Wow.
And it might have only been me in the room by myself for about 2-3 minutes, but for me in that moment, it felt like an hour had passed by, and I was literally screaming out for help, and like it took so long for someone to come. And I was terrified. And me personally, I'm someone who has a sexual abuse history. So for me being in that space, I was like, it's okay. I'm sharing my story because I'm sure there's other people out here that might be hearing this and might be like, damn, I've been through that too. But being in that space in that moment, I was also getting re-triggered, right? Mm-hmm. And also I was kind of scared for my safety. So like that was a crazy experience. And again, although my colleagues don't know my personal history about what I might have been through, any normal person who had been in that situation, that's a traumatic experience. And that was kind of like something I was just like brushed over, gave it over in report, and then clock out, go home, come back to work the next day like nothing happened, and still have to work with the patient and, you know, keep things going. So yeah, it's tough. And I mean, these things happen not only on a psych unit, they happen anywhere in the hospital, no matter where you're working. You know, getting assaulted by patients is a thing, whether they have capacity, whether they don't, is definitely a real thing that is truly impacting us. And honestly, the mental health of healthcare workers is in shambles. Mm-hmm. Depression and suicide is through the roof for healthcare workers, and we deal with a lot. We take on a lot. We're dealing with people at the most vulnerable times in their lives. So, yeah, I think we're doing a better job. Back then, when I first started out, no, I don't feel like there was a lot of support, and maybe it's better now. I haven't been bedside in a while, but I feel like we're making strides towards progress in that department. So,
what do you like at the time? Did you ever do anything for yourself in terms of like going to therapy or like finding any sort of release or anything like that for your own mental health?
So I've been in therapy for a while. So I definitely was in therapy at that time, if not a little bit afterwards. While I was around that time too, I was kind of debating whether or not I was going to go back for my NP or not, or if I was going to stay as a nurse. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I got my real estate license. And around that time, I had recently had a friend who, had jumped off the school building and had committed suicide. Wow. So around that space time, I'm working in mental health. I got all this stuff. I'm dealing with people's mental health. This happens with my friend. I definitely had went to therapy, and I don't think I had unpacked that particular incident in therapy at that time, but like later on I did. But yeah, therapy was definitely helpful. But honestly, just the gym, like I went to the gym a lot. Like everyone's like, oh, you're a gym girly, you're a gym head. But like, that's like low key my therapy. So like for me, that's kind of what I would do. And I write a lot. So like journaling, writing, I write poetry, like anything that's creative where I can get whatever I'm feeling inside out. That has always been my outlet for me.
Okay. And is that still true to this day?
1000%.
Do you ever feel like, is this a requirement for psych NPs to have therapy? Like in school, is that a requirement? I know sometimes like people who decide to go into mental health in general, that it's a requirement in school for them to do that.
So I don't think it's a requirement across the board. It's not like a state mandate that you must be in therapy. I know some programs will have their students do it. I know my program didn't. But for me personally, I think 1000%, like if you're going to be a mental health provider and you're going to be talking to your patients about going to therapy, I feel like you should experience therapy yourself. Not only does it make you more knowledgeable as a provider, but it also helps you become a better person so that you can show up for your patients better. I feel like the fact that I've been to therapy and I've done the work on myself, I'm able to show up for my patients in a way that maybe Val from 10 years ago might not have been able to show up. So I definitely think it's important. And for those who haven't, I think you should. Therapy is not just for people that are unwell. Therapy can help you with navigating life, making career choices, a bunch of different things. So you don't have to be going through a crisis or be like mentally unstable for you to go to therapy. It has a lot of benefits to it. So I definitely encourage people to go to therapy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Next 5 years, just living lavishly on my yacht, just on the Amalfi Coast. No, I do see that. Mm-hmm. We'll save this. We'll reference this video, 1000%. Honestly, my practice will be bigger and better and growing, and we'll be scaling. But also in addition to that, more of the filmmaking stuff growing, getting bigger deals, bigger contracts, doing more stuff where I can impact more people. And also being able to create wellness events to a bigger scale where people are like paying me to come and curate their events. Like, hey, you're the person who does dope events for the mental health and wellness space. So in the next 5 years, I think that's feasible to have all those things done.
All right. I mean, in terms of like being secure, just because why not just throw it out there? Do you have like where can people reach you for that?
For what?
Like if you're curating stuff.
Oh, you can send me a DM at I am Valerie Revelis. You can also email me at iamvalerierevelis@gmail.com.
Okay, cool. Do you have any tips that you would want to share with like either your former self or a tip that you would want people to know, maybe either coming into psych or just into nursing in general?
For sure. I think my biggest tip for people that are coming into nursing is that you shouldn't rush your process, right? I think a lot of people get into nursing and they see on social media what people are doing, especially being an NP, or they're working different types of jobs, and they kind of just want to jump from one thing to the next without actually taking the time to cultivate the skills needed to like reach that level of excellence, or to reach that level that's going to give them the ability to have that business or to have whatever it is that they're admiring from that other person. So I feel like taking your time, really exploring, building your skills is important. You have all the time in the world to kind of build that. Don't feel like you're stuck in a box when you get into nursing. You might think you want to do one thing, and then again, like I said earlier, God might have a different purpose for you. So be open to that. Don't fight that. Lean into that. And nursing, you can do so much with it. Like, don't limit yourself to just one thing. I mean, look at us here today on a podcast. Like, that's fire. That's dope. I'm doing filmmaking. I'm creating visual content and storytelling about mental health for our communities. Like, my parents would be like, what are you talking about when I first brought that up, right? Yep. But again, don't limit yourself. But I think the biggest thing is people like, I guess it's more targeted towards like also my nurse entrepreneurs, right? People who are going to nursing and who want to have their own business. Like really stop comparing yourself to like other people and run your own race and really truly understand that like have your vision set in place and know that your vision is your vision. It's not for nobody else. And also understand that like, just because that opportunity didn't happen for you right now doesn't mean it's never going to happen. Just because this job turned you down and said no, that really might just be God's way of protecting you or saying, hey, you know what? You're not quite yet ready yet. Mm-hmm. Let me build you. Let me put you through the process. Let me help you sharpen your skills so that when I do give you what it is that I'm going to give you, that you're ready for it and you're able to execute it. So like, don't rush, take your time, and just trust the process.
That not only was an excellent tip, I just feel like you just spoke it to me. Because, like, you know what I'm saying? I was just sitting there, I'm like, I
was talking to myself, too.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for stopping by.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you, all right? You made it.
I made it.
Mama made it. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on another episode of The Nurse Aspect. If you ever want to be on the show, you have comments, concerns, you want to hit up Val, I'm available at thenurseaspect@gmail.com, and Val is available at
I am Valerie Revelis @gmail.com.
And Mind Psychiatry is available at
Mind Psychiatry.
Also, follow me on TikTok. Let's connect. I talk about nonsense on there, so not necessarily like, nurse related, but it's just nonsense in nursing. But it's still the nurse aspect at on TikTok. Okay. And that's it. That's all I got for y'all. Deuces.
Bye.